Chapter 2199. The Past Life 124-inch Foolish. The Emperor looked at Princess Qingluo angrily. You still think until now that the Ninth Emperor drove Dongfang you out? What kind of person is the Ninth Emperor? Whatever she takes in, she will always keep in. She would never do such a thing as disowning people. Princess Qingluo pursed her lips and did not say a word. The Emperor slowly closed his eyes, trembling. Only after a second did he open his eyes and looked at Princess Qingluo. As for why she is by Little Nine's side, it is because of Little Nine. She is the Ninth Emperor. Little Nine is the Ninth Emperor. This statement was like a peal of sudden thunder, falling with a bang, smashing into the brains of everyone present, causing their heads to go blank. Little Nine is the Ninth Emperor? Impossible. How can Little Nine be the Ninth Emperor? Mui froze. His face was pale as he turned and gazed at Qingluo. The Emperor said that Little Nine, she's the Ninth Emperor? He clenched his fists tightly. His heart could not stop trembling. No matter how Mui thought, he couldn't link Little Nine to the Ninth Emperor. But the Emperor had said that, so it must be true. Faster than Mui was Prince Min, as his fist, like the wind, quickly smashed into Qingluo's face. She looked up and saw Prince Min's angry face. At this moment, Prince Min's eyes were filled with waves of monstrous anger. Tell me, what is going on here? This punch caused Qingluo's face to turn blue, and her face was pale as she took a few steps back. I won't believe it. Little Nine can never be that Ninth Emperor. It's impossible. What kind of thing was Little Nine? The Ninth Emperor was the most influential person who shocked the world. So what could she have to do with Little Nine? Father must have been deceived. Father, it's Sima Yin. He's the one lying to you. Qingluo turned to look at Sima Yin, gritting her teeth. I know very well what Little Nine is like. She is sinister and malicious. She even laid hands on Xingya, but that Ninth Emperor has always been open and honest, so how can she be the Ninth Emperor? Yes, up to now, Qingluo still did not believe the Emperor's words. She was in disbelief, and the way she looked at Sima Yin was filled with hatred. Me for extra chapters. This time, even Mu Qingya did not help her. Mu Qingya had always known her grandfather. If he had not gotten the details of the information, he could not have been so sure of Little Nine's identity. So, Little Nine was the Ninth Emperor? Mu Qingya clenched her fists tightly and gently closed her eyes. Her heart was sinking. She was somewhat unable to extricate herself. She could not control that trembling heart no matter how hard she tried. Old Lady Mu also shook her head and shouted, Little Nine is a little bitch. How much can that bitch be capable of? Still, to be the Ninth Emperor, it's simply ridiculous. You must have made a mistake. The Emperor grew angrier. It seems that you guys think that I am lying to you. His voice was so harsh that it scared Qingluo into kneeling. Father, I did not think like that. No, the Emperor sneered. If you refuse to admit that Little Nine is the Ninth Emperor, then that means you think that I am lying to you? I don't care whether you believe it or not, but today, I must give justice to her for this matter. Chapter 2200. The Past Life 125. I must give justice to this matter. These words made Princess Qingluo's heart tremble even more. Lulan had not said a word. She seemed miserably pale with panic. If Little Nine was the Ninth Emperor, she could not help but remember what she had just said to the Ninth Emperor, and her body shivered. Even her eyes were all filled with despair. This despair was so evident that it also made her face look very ugly. This time, Mu Qingya not only wanted to harm her, but also wanted to harm the entire Prince Min's manor. Why? How exactly did she wrong her? Why did she want to harm them so much? After coming back to her senses, Lulan lunged toward Mu Qingya. Her voice was heartbreaking, and her gaze was all filled with despair. Why? Why did you lie to me? And you still want to harm my family? That is the Ninth Emperor. That is the Ninth Emperor that everyone in the mainland fears. So why did you do this to me? Her tears flowed down her face. Her whole body was trembling, and she slapped Mu Qingya's face fiercely. She had used a lot of force in this angry slap. However, Mu Qingya did not dodge it, and simply accepted this slap. Mu Kinjia's brain went blank. Her body also stiffened, and her eyes were filled with disbelief. Maybe Mu Qingya also could not understand why her mother would want to hurt her like this. Everyone's expressions were filled with anger, and all eyes fell upon Qing Luo. Qing Luo was still arguing on her own behalf. It's not like that. You must have listened to other people's lies. If Little Nine is the ninth emperor, if it's easy for her to go back to Mu Yi, why didn't she snatch Mu Yi away? Yes, if Little Nine were the ninth emperor, she would have snatched Mu Yi away long ago. Old Lady Mu was such a materialistic person. If she knew that she was the ninth emperor, she would have gone to kiss her feet. Why would she still care about Qingya? Take a look at the people around the ninth emperor. Mu Yi, she doesn't even give a damn about him and doesn't need him. The people around the ninth emperor? What do you mean about the people around Little Nine? Dong Feng Yu and the other servants. The strength of all of them is above me. Boom. These words are like a stick that smashed them all head on. Me for extra chapters. It made King Luo's face turn even paler. She was still slyly arguing in her heart, but in the end, she did not utter that word again. As for that Nan Chongfeng, Sima Yin sneered. His strength is profound. I also do not know what realm he is in. The ridiculous thing is that Qingya, the kingdom's noble lady, claimed that Nan Chongfeng had taken a fancy to her, considering the ninth emperor's excellence. It is ridiculous. Mu Qingya had said that to many people. Even Mu Yi turned to Mu Qingya. Mu Kinjia's lips trembled. Her face was pale. Her body was shivering uncontrollably, and she seemed frightened. At first, she only saw Nan Changfeng's beauty, thinking that he was only beautiful at best. But how could he be so powerful? It must be Sima Yin lying to her again. Earlier, Mu Qingya had also slandered Qing Luo in her heart. But when it came to her, she started to deceive herself and was not willing to believe what others said. This was human nature. They start denying things once the consequences of their actions are unmanageable. Chapter 22:01. The Past Life 126-inch Ridiculous. The Emperor sneered. He was disappointed with his granddaughter to the core. He never expected that both his daughter and granddaughter would be so stupid. One refused to admit Little Nine's identity and had been deceiving herself and others, while the other one had slandered Little Nine so much. But Sima Yin sneered. Nan Chongfeng had never looked at you since he appeared. On the contrary, it is you who, I think, have fallen in love with Nan Chongfeng. Mu Yi was stunned. His eyes were filled with disbelief. Princess Qing Luo might act this way, but Qingya had always obeyed him. How could she do such a thing? He closed his eyes slowly and painfully. You all take me for a fool. So, were they all deceiving him? Ha 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 ha. Mu Yi could not help but laugh wildly, and that laughter carried despair. There were even tears flowing from his eyes. Old Lady Mu took a few steps back, muttering, "Impossible! What is she capable of? Little Nine, it is impossible." Yet, she had to believe it. The Emperor closed his eyes as well. Listen here. Mu Qingya and Prince Min are sent to prison to be disposed of by me on a day chosen. Mu Qingya, she framed others, plotting to kill Lu Lan, and on a day will be executed. These last two words were like a peal of thunder that made Mu Qingya tremble. Her grandfather wanted to kill her. Did he decide to kill her? No. Qing Luo loved her daughter so much. She panicked, jumped before the emperor, crying bitterly. Father, I only have Qingya. These are all my fault. Please do not execute Qingya. Please, please. Her voice was hoarse, and her expression was sorrowful. The emperor slowly opened his eyes. Qing Luo, she poisoned Lu Lan. It is enough to put her to death. When the emperor's family broke the law, it's the same crime as the common people. Don't you understand this? Moreover, the ninth emperor is involved. I must give justice to her. Otherwise, this entire Fengyun kingdom would be dragged down by this pair of stupid mother and daughter. Qing Luo bit her lip hard. She took a few steps back with her eyes filled with despair. Mu Kinjia's face was pale, and her pleading gaze fixed upon Mu Yi. Mu Yi's heart ached a little as he saw Mu Kinjia's eyes. Me for extra chapters. After all, she was his daughter that he had loved for many years. He'll go beg little Nine. Qingya, you must wait for me. Mu-Yi suppressed the panic inside and turned around to walk outside the imperial study room. Old Lady Mu was still shocked. Her old face was pale. In fact, to a selfish person like her, if the existence of Qing Luo and Qingya made her lose her role as an authority, then why would she still care about these people's lives? Her mind was full of the emperor's words. Little Nine is the 9th emperor. At that moment, her gray eyes instantly cooled for a moment. That was right. If Little Nine was the 9th emperor, it would only benefit her and not harm her. After all, the younger must be filial to the elder. The 9th emperor, such a person was the most reliable. She would never let others say anything. So even if she were forced, she would force Little Nine to be filial to her. By then, she could also enjoy the fame, which was more than when the princess gave her. Old Lady Mu did not care about Mu Qingjia's life, but only about her interests. So, everyone knew what kind of shameless person this old lady was. Chapter 2202. The Past Life 127. However, at this moment, no one was paying attention to Old Lady Mu anymore. Looking at the group of people pulling Mu Qingya out, King Luo's gaze was filled with despair. She felt like her sky had collapsed, and for the first time, she regretted what she had done. If she had not targeted Little Nine, if she had not been so jealous, would her daughter have been in trouble, and would the emperor's son-in-law's manor have been dragged down by her? Father, I know that she is wrong, and she knows that she is wrong. She kowtowed frantically. Blood seeped from a wound on her forehead, but she still seemed to be unaware of it as she kowtowed desperately. When the emperor saw King Luo's appearance, he could not bear it. But when he thought of what she had done, a wave of anger surged to his heart once more. Someone, take Qing Luo away and lock her up too. The emperor forced himself to seem cold. Qing Luo, this is the price you must pay. Qing Luo trembled and slowly closed her eyes. Yes, this was the price she must pay. Qing Luo spurted a mouthful of blood, and her body fell backward. The emperor ordered someone to help Qing Luo up, and then take her out to lock her up. Prince Min clenched his fists tightly, and his resentful gaze was fixed upon Qing Luo and her daughter being dragged away. His heart was about to explode with anger. I blame Qing Luo and Mu Qingya. If it weren't for them, this wouldn't have happened. However, even if Prince Min regretted it, it was already useless. He could only blame himself for being too stupid and trusting this pair of snake women. Everyone had been dragged out of the room. Old Lady Mu did not make a big mistake and was not locked up. Looking at the empty imperial study room, the emperor seemed to have aged a few dozen years. His daughter and his granddaughter. How could he not be heartbroken? Yet again, there was no way. He must settle it quickly. General Sima, it was my mistake. It was my mistake before. The emperor caressed his face as his tears rolled down his weathered face. I was too indulgent of Qingya, which made her so ignorant and even almost harmed the whole kingdom. Me for extra chapters. This is because I, to the end, still pitied them. I did not bear to lock them up. I just let them stay in the emperor's son-in-law's manor and order people to guard them not to let them out. If I had been more ruthless, if I had just imprisoned all of them, then all of these would not happen, and they might have been safe. Indulging a son was like killing a son. This was the same for granddaughters. It was ridiculous that he had always thought that Qingya was well-behaved and understanding, but he did not know that she could still do such a thing. Emperor, it is not your fault. Even if you lock them up, they still have other ways to escape. Sima Yin sighed, but I do not understand. The princess and noble lady have everything. Why do they hold such great resentment against Little Nine? And in this matter, Mu-Yi also did not do any right. He abandoned Little Nine and chose the emperor's family. This man is greedy. I think the 9th emperor will not forgive him, Sima Yin said and smiled again. Not only would she not forgive him, it seemed that even before, the 9th emperor also did not care for him, considering that he had been bugging and trying to get the 9th emperor back home. Putting aside which home he had now, But could there be a good end to have the ninth emperor back? Chapter 2203. The Past Life 128. It was also fortunate that Little Nine was the ninth emperor. If it were any ordinary woman, she might not be able to keep herself safe in this storm. After leaving the palace, Mu-Yi ran straight to the courtyard where the ninth emperor lived. He was out of breath, and his face was all sweaty. But he stopped in front of the gate, hesitating. He put his hand on the gate, but then withdrew it. He had previously done countless things to hurt Little Nine, and now he wanted to ask for her forgiveness. He was afraid she might not forgive him either. However, Kinji's life was already in her hands. Even if Mu-Yi was reluctant, he finally raised his hand and opened the gate. It was quiet. However, Mu-Yi did not dare to enter without permission. After all, when he entered before, he fell into the formation, and it took a long time to come out. There was no time to wait. Therefore, he could not waste a single moment. Otherwise, Qingyao would be in danger. Little Nine, Mu-Yi finally took a few steps back and stood right in the doorway. His voice was filled with grief and pain, and he spoke in a fatherly way. I know you're still angry with me. You do not forgive me for not listening to you. Not to mention that I married another person who caused you to run away from home for years. No matter how angry you are, I am always your father. The same blood still runs in both our veins. Can you bear to ignore it? I know Qingyao was too much this time, but she has been punished, so please, can you spare her life? You can remove her strength, or throw her out, or even exile her to the savage land. But I beg you, please spare her life. He stroked his robe and knelt. A father kneeling to his daughter would have been too much for this world to see. The sky was clear, without any thunder roar. Mu-Yi's eyes filled with deep pain. However, the answer to him was only silence. Silence, as if nothing had happened. Please, spare her a life. No matter what, as long as Mu Qingyao was still alive, then there was hope. But if she died, there would be nothing left. Even if she were sent to the savage land, with Kinji's intelligence, she would definitely find a way to survive. It was better than dying in this place. Me for extra chapters. Creak! The gate was finally opened. Mu-Yi's eyes flashed with joy, and he raised his head. After seeing the girl standing in the doorway, his eyes darkened again. It was not Little Nine. That girl, she had refused to see him after all. Mu-Yi smiled bitterly, and his heart was cold. His entire body was a little stiff, but he kept kneeling on the ground and did not move. Standing at the door was Dongfangyu. She looked at Mu-Yi kneeling on the ground and frowned. She was a little dissatisfied with his behavior and hummed. You must leave. She doesn't want to see you. Mu-Yi kowtowed hard. Fresh blood flowed from his forehead, causing Dongfangyu to frown again. Please, let me see her. Just one glance. If Little Nine did not help him, then no one could save Qingyao. Mu Qingyao was his only daughter. They had lived together for so many years. How could he not be heartbroken? Chapter 2204. The Past Life 129. Looking at Mu-Yi in front of him, Dongfangyu pursed her lips and did not say a word. Before, when the ninth emperor was framed, Mu-Yi immediately gave up on her. And now that Mu Qingyao was placed in such a situation, everything had changed. He could come to the door to beg the ninth emperor for Mu Qingyao. But why did he want to give up on her that day? Mu-Yi was still kowtowing fiercely. The blood from his forehead flowed to the ground, staining the ground red. However, he seemed to be unaware of the pain and did not stop. I want to see Little Nine. Please, let me see Little Nine once. If he waited any longer, maybe Mu Qingyao would be sentenced to death. His daughter, how could he not save her when seeing her about to die? There was grief in Mu-Yi's eyes, and there was a little determination in his eyes. It seemed that if he did not see the ninth emperor today, he would not leave this place. Mu-Yi. Dongfangyu put down her hands that were crossed before her chest and looked coldly at Mu-Yi, kneeling on the ground. Earlier, I heard everything from Tianxian. You can go to such an extent for Mu Qingyao, but why, when my master was in danger, your first reaction was to give up on her? Mu-Yi froze and closed his eyes as if in deep pain. Back then, he had no other thoughts. He only knew that if he helped Little Nine, it would inevitably cause the wrath of Prince Min, and then even the whole emperor's son-in-law's family would be implicated. If the emperor's son-in-law's family were involved, Qingya would also be dragged down. So, he gave up on Little Nine before Mu Yi thought of the choice at the beginning. His face was even paler and seemed to be filled with grief. He felt sorry for Little Nine. Even if Little Nine had grievances toward him, Qingya was still young. She did not know what to do but to make such a mistake. Can you help me to tell Little Nine, those are all my fault, and I beg her to forgive Qingya. Qingya is still a child. I am a father who did not teach her well, allowing her to make such a mistake. Dongfang Yu sneered. Indeed, you did not teach her well. Fortunately, the ninth emperor left you long ago, or else I do not know what will happen to her. Faced with Dongfang Yu's sneer, Mu Yi did not have any courage to retort. His heart felt like it had been hit hard, and it stung. It was clear that he wanted to make up for Little Nine initially. So why did it turn out this way in the end me for extra chapters? I'm sorry. It's my fault. I'm sorry. He once again knocked his head hard on the ground. Fresh blood flowed. He was surrounded by many people who had suddenly gathered around, all of them pointing at the courtyard. I heard that the one living in this courtyard is Little Nine, the daughter of the Mu family. How can Little Nine be so cruel as to let her father kneel outside and kowtow to her, without even coming out to see him? I did hear that Mu Qingya wanted to harm Prince Min's granddaughter just now, and it also involved Little Nine. Mu Qingya has been taken away by Prince Min. I don't understand why Mu Yi came begging to see Little Nine. No matter what, Mu Yi is her father. She shouldn't treat her father like this. Even if the father had made a huge mistake, a son or daughter had no right to make the father kneel. If Little Nine was like this, was she not afraid of being struck by lightning and never to be reincarnated? Chapter 2205. The Past Life 130. Dongfang Yu glanced at those people present, and her eyes became even colder. Hearing those people's words, Mu Yi's eyes lit up. He bit his lip hard and continued to kowtow. This time he kowtowed even harder. It seemed that with the help of those people's opinions, they could make Little Nine come out to see her. Dongfang Yu looked at Mu Yi and could not help but laugh out loud. Look, before, he gave up the ninth emperor for Mu Qingya. Now, he came to force the ninth emperor for Mu Qingya's sake. I don't know what kind of sins the ninth emperor has to meet such a person. It's heartbreaking. Dongfang Yu began to feel sorry for the ninth emperor. Perhaps even the ninth emperor did not want to have such a father. Moreover, to the ninth emperor, her father had long gone. Little Nine, I know you are angry, but Qingya is your sister. As long as you are willing to forgive her, the emperor said he would let Qingya go. Please, these are my fault, so kill me instead. I am also willing, but please help Qingya. His voice was sorrowful, with despair and heartbreaking. However, no one but silence answered him. Only the light breeze brushed the leaves and made a rustling sound. In the crowd, those people once again discussed, looking at Mu Yi with sympathy. How can sisters have such a feud? I don't understand why they don't forgive her. The emperor has said that she only needs to forgive Qingya to save her. If it were me, I would have forgiven long ago. Do I still need my father to kneel in front of the door? If Qingya wants to harm her, that must be her fault. Otherwise, how can others want to harm her for no reason? But she is so sneaky. Such a person really cannot become successful. Indeed, Qingya is a good person. She usually treats our people so well. Where do we find such a good noble lady? If she had not first provoked noble lady, would noble lady have made a move against her? Such people will never reflect on themselves, let alone change themselves, but only think that it's someone else's problem and want to kill them all. The crowd sneered. It was as if the ninth emperor had done something unforgivable. Dongfang Yu only listened calmly, but in the end, she could not hold it back anymore. Me for extra chapters. She was angry. These years, the ninth emperor had done so much for the people, but in the end, these people were so indiscriminate. They only thought of helping Mu Yi. Was filial piety greater than heaven? Ridiculous. People like Mu Yi did not deserve a daughter like the ninth emperor. Do you guys think that this matter is all my master's fault? She smiled sarcastically as she slowly walked toward the crowd. Isn't this her fault? Get that little nine to come out and see what has happened to her old father. The man was emotional, and his gaze was filled with anger. Anyone else with a conscience wouldn't be able to endure it. And what makes her think that the emperor will really kill noble Lady Qingya? The emperor is only giving her a warning. Otherwise, why didn't he look for Prince Min when Qingya poisoned Lulan? That's because Prince Min knows what's important and knows that Qingya has no bad intention. But this little nine is a scourge. The emperor has given her a chance, but she ignored it. This kind of person will never have a good end. Initially, some people in the crowd were curious about why the emperor would spare Mu Qingya only if little nine forgave her. Chapter 2206. The Past Life 131. When the man said that, it became clear. So this is why the emperor is trying to give her a chance. But she did not cherish it as she was bullying others and being arrogant. Mui's heart was filled with guilt. I'm sorry, little nine. I have no way to help you, and now I can only use these people to save your sister. After all, what you have lost is only your reputation, but what your sister will lose is her life. In the future, you will mature, grow up, and will certainly understand my pain. So I'm sorry. He closed his eyes sorrowfully and continued to smash his head hard on the ground, allowing the blood to flow and stain the ground red. Dongfang Yu scanned the crowd coldly, and a stern light flashed in her eyes. She was about to speak when a lazy voice spoke from behind her. Dongfang Yu. This voice made Dongfang Yu pause and hold back all the words she was about to say and turn her head to look at the ninth emperor. Standing by the gate was the ninth emperor with a smile. She was the absolute beauty of the city. Those who had not seen her before could not help but be stunned as amazement filled their eyes. It turned out that this little nine was so good-looking. They had also heard that she bewitched even Qingya's future husband. Now it seemed that she was indeed like a vixen with the ability to seduce people. Little nine. The moment he saw little nine, Mui's eyes lit up for a moment. He stood up from the ground and stumbled toward the ninth emperor. Naively, he had not yet reached her, and little nine had raised her leg. She fiercely kicked Mui away. Mui fell to the ground in a heap. He coughed, raised his head, and looked at her with a shocked gaze. You why? Why is little nine so cruel to me? Those people who gathered around were also frozen. No one could have imagined that little nine would act in such a way. This man was her father. How could she be so cruel to her father? Me for extra chapters. They thought she was unfilial, but now it seemed to be more than unfilial. How did God not kill this woman yet? Who are you? Father? The ninth emperor lowered her head and looked at Mui from a standing position. Her face was cold and expressionless. Mui braced himself and stood up with his sad and painful gaze. What do you mean by that? Little nine, you don't even want to acknowledge me as your father now? He closed his eyes sadly. His eyes carried a sense of pain. The ninth emperor sneered. You're only Mu Qingya's father and not mine. Her voice was bland, but it made Dongfang Yu look at her with heartache. After all, the ninth emperor had already been so disappointed that she could bring herself to say this. Mu, however, still came to find trouble with her again and again. The Mu family was not good. No, anyone with the surname Mu was not good. Dongfang Yu hummed, looked at Mui's gaze with a bit of disdain and mockery. Ninth Emperor, I was just about to drive these people away before you came out. I was afraid that these people would hurt your ears, so you'd better go in first. They'll take care of it. There is no need, the ninth Emperor sneered and smirked. The formation can't stop the noise, so I had to come out. Chapter 2207. The Past Life 132. After hearing these words from the ninth Emperor, Dongfang Yu felt even more guilty. If it were not for her lack of competence, the ninth Emperor would not have had to come out to solve this matter herself. She pursed her lips and looked at Mui angrily. The ninth Emperor put her hands down and walked toward Mui. Each step made Mui's heart tremble more, but he did not dare to stop kowtowing. Do you think when you kowtow and die here, it will soften my heart to let Mu Qingya go? Or do you think that by having so many people around, I will give in to public opinion and forgive her? Mu-I was stunned and bowed his head. Little Nine, I did not mean this. If that's not the case, then what do you mean by this? The ninth emperor sneered, leaned down, and looked at Mu-I. Mu-I, even if you die in front of me, I will not let her go. Why should I let a person who wants to harm me alive? In my case, there is no way to repay grudges with virtue. In my case, there is no such thing as repaying a grudge with virtue. These words made Mu-I's heart tremble even more. He was covered in blood when he lunged toward the ninth emperor. Little Nine, I don't believe that you are such a person. You were kind before. How could you have turned out like this? You will let her go. After all, she is your sister. Sister? These two words made the ninth emperor sneer. He is just your daughter, not my sister. Besides, you and I didn't have any relationship before. Mu-I raised his head sharply and stared at the ninth emperor in shock. What do you mean by that? I'm your father. Why do you think I didn't have any relationship with you before? Little Nine, do you want your father to die in front of you before you are willing to let her go? His eyes were filled with grief and desire as he looked at the ninth emperor. It was as if what the ninth emperor had done was an extreme evil. Are you my father? She looked at Mu-I coldly and asked sternly. Mu-I trembled, and a flash of weakness crossed his eyes. That weakness was so obvious that it was difficult for the ninth emperor not to find out. Little Nine, you're Little Nine of the Mu family. If I am not your father, then who is? Can you not disown me? His tone was filled with despair, and he kept looking at the ninth emperor. The ninth emperor chuckled. Some time ago, I found a painting in the cellar. The person in that painting is my mother. The painting was a fox, but she knew that her mother was the spirit beast. Me for extra chapters. And she was a beast man. She had not told this secret to anyone yet. Perhaps even Mu-I must not know that her mother was a spirit beast. After all, if they knew who she was, the Mu family and that old lady would not easily let her go. Beastmen were special creatures and could also help others cultivate. Usually they would be endlessly pursued and killed. Of course, when it came to people like Old Lady Mu, once she knew that her mother was a beast man, Old Lady Mu would sell her to others. Fortunately, these people did not know about it. Otherwise, she would not be able to resist. But now, even if the world knew that she was a beast man, no one could do anything to her anymore. Mu-I panicked even more and clenched his fists tightly. I do not understand. What do you mean by that? It's just a painting. Chapter 2208. The Past Life 133-inch. Are you sure it is only a painting? The ninth emperor walked toward Mu-I with a smile. Her smile was a little cold, sending a chill down people's spine. Mu-I panicked even more. He tried to calm the panic inside, but his face was still pale. Impossible. Little Nine can't know about that. Back then, my mother was pregnant with me and was seriously injured and lost her memory. You took her just because you saw her beauty. Mu-I's eyes filled up with panic as he clenched his fists harder and his heart trembled more. Little Nine, I don't know what you're talking about. You're my daughter, no doubt. You can't say these just because you don't want to save Qingya. His gaze was filled with grief and also some disappointment, as if Little Nine did not want to save Mu Qingya before dissociating herself from him. But Little Nine was the only hope. He wanted to hold on to her tightly, and it was impossible to let her go. My mother remembered everything after seeing that painting. And after my mother recovered her memory, she left this place. You know that I'm not your daughter, too. So back then, Mu-I was not very kind to her, but she was still grateful to Mu-I for giving her a year of warmth. Before, she did not know that she and Mu-I did not have a father-daughter relationship, but she still did not intend to disturb him. Not bothering him was the best thing to give in return to him. It was just that Mu-I had been bugging her, making her annoyed, and what Mu Qingya did was all her own doing. No one could blame her. Mu-I kneeled on the ground. His blood flowed, and he felt a burst of pain on the forehead. However, the pain in his forehead could not be compared to the coldness in his heart. The crowd was shocked. Little Nine is not Mu-I's daughter? However, even if she is not Mu-I's daughter, Mu-I took care of her for so many years. Considering how he is her adoptive father, how could she make things so difficult for him? They were very ignorant and did not understand little Nine. Moreover, the ninth emperor lowered her head and smirked. Her eyes were cold. Even if I let her go, the others will not let her go. Instead of pleading for her here, you should go and pick a better grave for her. Me for extra chapters. Mu-Yi's body trembled, and he closed his eyes in despair. Yes, little Nine was not his daughter. This had been known to him for a long time, but he had long treated her as his daughter. So many years of father-daughter love between them, and even his care for her was all real. Even if little Nine had returned, he would still feel guilty. Initially, this guilt should not exist because he had sincerely treated little Nine as his daughter. Little Nine, I have taken care of you for so many years. So, can you please forgive Qingya? Mu-Yi raised his head, and his voice carried a deep pain. Dongfang on the side was a little dumbfounded. She blinked as her eyes were filled with dismay. She had never thought that Mu-Yi was not the ninth emperor's father. In this way, many things would make sense. It was expected for Mu-Yi to love Mu Qingya so much, and he would not give up Mu Qingya for the ninth emperor's sake. Chapter 2209. The past life 134. Mu Qingya was at fault, and Mu-Yi was also at fault. Since the ninth emperor was not his real daughter and refused to follow him home, why did he keep disturbing her? If he did not pester the ninth emperor, Mu Qingya would not have done such a thing out of jealousy. Go away. Dongfang came forward, blocking Mu-Yi's line of sight. She frowned, and her voice carried a hint of impatience. My master doesn't want to see you right now. Mu-Yi froze. The look of despair in his eyes grew intense as he raised his sad eyes. Are you so heartless that you won't give me a single chance? The ninth emperor looked down at him. I gave you a chance, but it was you who didn't take it seriously. She had given these people so many opportunities. However, these people did not take it seriously, so it had nothing to do with her. Mu-Yi trembled and finally stood up. His eyes were filled with sadness, and he stumbled slightly. The open gash on his forehead with blood dripping was somewhat shocking to the eyes. But, even so, it still could not soften the ninth emperor's heart. Her face was cold, expressionless. However, Dongfang understood that the ninth emperor might not have returned because of the Mu family. Maybe Mu-Yi's was the reason for her disappointment. Yet, the ninth emperor did not say it, and she would never ask. The ninth emperor's voice was faint. She never seemed to call him father once since she returned this time. What happened to Mu Qingya today is all because of you. You indulged her, trusted her, doted on her, making her so arrogant. She can't accept anyone better than her, and she even used these people to her benefit. But one day, once she feels that someone has stolen something from her, be it fame, wealth, or love, she will do anything that she can to destroy that person. It was you guys who gave her pride, and she wouldn't allow anyone to crush her pride. Therefore, this has befallen her today because of you guys. Me for extra chapters. Mu-Yi trembled, and he closed his eyes sorrowfully. He told himself that what little Nine said was not necessarily true. But what was in front of him was indeed the truth. Qingya thought little Nine would replace her, so she was angry, resentful, and had finally made an irreparable mistake. But no matter what, she is my daughter. I will do anything for her. He opened his eyes and said sadly, that is your business. It has nothing to do with me. I don't want to see you here again after this. Little Nine's voice was cold and her face expressionless. Dongfang, next time, you just kick him out directly. There is no need to talk to him. It's such a waste to say anything to people like him. After saying that, the ninth emperor turned away and walked into the courtyard, leaving only the cold view of her back to Mu. He wanted to stop the ninth emperor, but Dongfang had already closed the courtyard gate, completely blocking him. Dongfang looked at Mu-Yi coldly. Where were you when my master suffered out there and was being pursued? Chapter 2210. The Past Life 135. Mu-Yi stiffened. Isn't little Nine the ninth emperor? She should be living a good life. How could she still be chased after? I don't care what you did back then that caused my master to run away. But in the future, don't come to bother her again. After saying that, Dongfang did not look at him again and simply turned to the people in front of him. You guys keep saying that one should be filial and repay your grievances with virtue. It's simply ridiculous. When Mu Qingya plotted to kill innocent people because of her selfishness and blame my master, why didn't anyone say that they should repay grievances with virtue? When Mu Yi had to give her up without asking, why didn't anyone complain about that? Since this group of people can't do it, why should she be asked to repay her grievances with virtue and be filial to someone who doesn't deserve her filial piety? For some people, when the knife is not on her neck, she does not know the pain, but once it's on her neck, she's more ruthless than anyone else. Indeed, for some people, when the knife was no longer on their neck, they became arrogant and accused others because they did not know the pain. After all, the pain was on someone else's body. When they were in pain, they would be more ruthless than anyone else. The crowd was somewhat dumbfounded and did not know what to say. Earlier, among the crowd, someone deliberately triggered the crowd to hate on Little Nine to force her to forgive the Mu family. But now they all fell silent. If someone had treated them like this, would they still repay the grievances with virtue? Could they forgive the person who wanted to harm them? Everyone was quiet. Even the most ruthless people who screamed from the crowd earlier did not dare to speak after seeing Dongfang's eyes. Dongfang said nothing more. She simply turned and slammed the courtyard gate fiercely shut as if it could keep the rumors out. Mu Yi stood in the light breeze, frozen. He then turned around slowly and walked away. Gradually, the sad figure disappeared in the crowd. The emperor's son-in-law manor. Mu Yi walked into the manor and saw the old lady of the Mu family approaching him with a glow in her eyes. How did it go? Is Little Nine willing to come back? Me for extra chapters. Old Lady Mu had always called her a wild child before, but it became Little Nine. Mu Yi slowly came back to his senses. He raised his head stiffly, looked at the old lady in front of him, and shook his head. Old Lady Mu spat and scolded. Useless! Why can't you even invite her back? You are her father. Can't there be no way to make her come home? This is her home. If she doesn't come back, where else could she go? She is Little Nine of the Mu family. This is her home. Her home. These two words echoed in Mu Yi's mind. He suddenly raised his head again and stared at old Lady Mu. If it were not for her mother's words, Little Nine would have returned a long time ago, and there would not have been so many bad things happening to them. If it were not for her mother's fondness of Mu Qingya, his daughter would not have become like this, let alone become a prisoner. Chapter 22:11. The Past Life 136. Therefore, it's all her fault. Rage flashed in his eyes, and he suddenly lunged toward old Lady Mu. The force was so strong that it made the old lady stumble and almost fell to the ground. What are you doing? Old Lady Mu's eyes were filled with anger, and she shouted angrily. She felt like her bones were about to break, and when she raised her head, she happened to meet Mu Yi's angry gaze. At this moment, his eyes, just like a lion, made people scared, as if in the next moment, he would pounce on people and eat them alive. This was the first time old Lady Mu saw Mu Yi with such a look. Before Mu Yi, her dead father also often looked at her in such a way. More than that, it was a nightmare that she could not forget about for many years. Mu Yi, I am your mother. She panicked a little, seemingly worried. Why? Why do you want to harm me? Why do you want to harm Qingya? He was angry, hissing. If it weren't for you, Qingya wouldn't have made such a mistake. It is all your fault. You are the sinner who harmed the people of the emperor's son-in-law's manor, and you are the one who caused Little Nine to ignore me. It was all old Lady Mu's fault. He threw aside filial piety. He only knew that it was his mother who had caused him so much misery. So, in the end, his voice was hoarse, and his eyes were full of anger. Old Lady Mu staggered up and shouted angrily, Crazy! You are crazy! You and your father are the same. Both are stupid. I have worked so hard for you for so many years, and now you do this to me? Indeed, all these years, it was his mother who raised him with so much hardship. But he felt pity for his daughter. Without old Lady Mu's coaxing, how could Qingya have committed such a mistake? She used to be a kind and simple girl. I finally understand why my father chose someone else and not you." He sneered. "Me for extra chapters. Because if I were him, I wouldn't live with a woman like you for the rest of my life." His eyes filled with deep pain. If the person in front of him were not his mother, he would have done more to her. He then clenched his fists tightly. For a moment, old Lady Mu froze, not expecting her son, whom she had raised since childhood, to say these things. At that moment, her whole body was about to explode with anger, and she rushed toward Mu Yi like crazy, biting his arm fiercely. Mu Yi yelped in pain. He then raised his hand and pushed Old Lady Mu away fiercely. Old Lady Mu's head hit the side of the bed, and she immediately fainted. Fortunately, a servant came out and hurriedly helped the old lady. The courtyard fell silent. Mu Yi lifted his sleeve and found that the old lady had bitten him so hard that her teeth had sunk into his flesh, making him bleed and leaving half of his arm bruised. He viciously sucked in a breath of cold air, and his gaze turned even more furious. Guard, from now on, only gives coarse food to Old Lady Mu. Burn all her new clothes and make her wear old clothes. Do not allow any servant to serve her. Before, Old Lady Mu was living such a luxurious life, but now he would just let her live how they lived before they were in the manor. Chapter 22:12. The past life 137. Old Lady Mu's face changed dramatically. If she really could not live such a luxurious life, then what was the point of staying here? Mu Yi, I'm your mother. You can't do this to me. She rushed toward him, but before she could touch Mu Yi's coat, he pushed her away. Perhaps this time Mu Yi was disappointed in Old Lady Mu and was no longer willing to take care of her. The old lady fell to the floor as she desperately looked at Mu Yi leave. No servant came to help her. All the servants stood aside, and no one paid attention to Old Lady Mu. Old Lady Mu had always been arrogant and bullied these servants. Now that Old Lady Mu was in trouble, no one looked at her more. After all, this was all her fault and could not be blamed on anyone. You, a bunch of killers treating an old lady like this. Mu Yi, you ungrateful child. Have you forgotten how hard I raised you? Now you have grown up and are abandoning me. Your mother, you unfilial son. Sooner or later, you will be struck by lightning and die. Old Lady Mu's voice echoed through the sky, causing people outside to look in that direction with shock. Only when Old Lady Mu had no more strength to roar did she quiet down, wiping the tears from the corners of her eyes, and her voice was filled with despair. Mu Yi, it's fine if you disown me. I can find someone else to raise me in the future. You are such an unfilial son. You are not destined to have a good end. People like you deserve to live alone. Her tone was spiteful, as if Mu Yi was not her son, but an enemy. You and your dead father are the same. You all deserve to die. Mu Yi hid behind the door, listened to the cursing outside, and closed his eyes slowly. His gaze was filled with pain. Ungrateful son, ha ha. Mu Yi closed his eyes and let his tears fall. His pale face was filled with grief. Regret and guilt scraped his heart like a knife, causing his heart to tremble even more. He opened his eyes half a second later. No matter what, he had to save Qingya. Little Nine did not need to be saved, as there was the Emperor. Me for extra chapters. He did not believe that the Emperor could be so ruthless. As long as he pleaded, perhaps Qingya would still have a chance to live. Mu Yi turned around, opened the door of the room, and walked out again. He did not know when Old Lady Mu had disappeared. No wonder the courtyard had suddenly become quiet. He now had no desire to care about this old lady and hurriedly walked out. Unfortunately, Mu Yi was not even able to enter as those guards stopped him. Sorry, Master D doesn't want to see anybody today. Mu Yi's eyes panicked, and his face turned pale. Please inform him and say that I have an urgent matter with him. There was a time when everyone in Fengyan Kingdom needed to beg to meet him. Now, it was him who was bitterly begging this group of people. Such humiliation, which he had never had before, now embarrassed him, but he could do nothing because Qingya was still waiting for him to save her life. For Qingya's sake, he was willing to put down his dignity. No matter what, he must save her. Chapter 2213. The Past Life 138. However, in the end, these people still did not open the gate, leaving Mu-E alone standing in the cold wind. From dawn until dark, he waited for him even though he had not been able to meet Di Ming. Mu-E was determined this time. If he could not meet Master Di, then he would rather starve to death here, never leave. Old Lady Mu knew where the Ninth Emperor lived, so she quickly rushed toward the Ninth Emperor's residence. The Ninth Emperor had not been able to clear her mind for a few days, but then, on the outside of the house, came Old Lady Mu's heartbreaking voice again. "Little Nine, I know you are at home. I am your grandmother, and have come to bring you home today. It was all Mu Kinjia's fault before this. She said bad things about you in front of me. That's why I did not want you to come home, but I know the truth now, so please come out to see me, even if just one glance." She sounded sorrowful and tried to make her voice sound sincere. However, the Ninth Emperor said nothing and did not come out. But suddenly, a powerful force rushed out to Old Lady Mu and knocked her out. The old lattice body could not withstand the force and fell to the ground. The others sneered and looked at Old Lady Mu mockingly. Who did not know the kind person this Old Lady Mu was? She had always been a scoundrel, had never done a good thing, and often looked for trouble. Even if a child accidentally bumped into her, she would still punish that child endlessly, until she was given money for her to stop. So now, seeing Old Lady Mu acting like this in front of the Ninth Emperor, they could not help but sneer. Some people laughed out loud, and were also not afraid of this old lady looking for them later to settle accounts. Even Mu-E was defeated by Little Nine, not to mention Old Lady Mu. Old Lady Mu stood up with a blue face. She fiercely glared at those who sneered and once again walked toward the gate. "Little Nine, I am your grandmother. You get out here." This time, along with that cold voice, there was once again a force that rushed toward her, and she fell again. This old lady was used to being arrogant, so when had she ever suffered such aggression? At first, she wanted to come and talk nicely, but she did not expect Little Nine to be so ignorant, which also made her furious. "Little Nine, you bastard! What do you think is so great about you? I'm your grandmother. I came to take you home with good intentions, and this is how you treat your grandmother? Come back with me immediately. Otherwise, I won't let you go." Little Nine was powerful, but she was still her granddaughter. Since she was her granddaughter, she should listen to her. Me for extra chapters. A sarcastic laugh nearby made Old Lady Mu more furious as she glared at that person. "What are you laughing at? Old Lady Mu, you probably still don't understand, do you?" The one who spoke was a young man, and it was also him who had just laughed at Old Lady Mu. This young man was somewhat kind. So, he explained to Old Lady Mu patiently, "Little Nine is not your biological granddaughter. Little Nine has already said that Mu-E forcibly married her mother, even though she was pregnant and lost her memory. She gave birth to a daughter who was not his. Now you still have the nerve to come and cause trouble?" If Little Nine were the bloodline of the Mu family, then these people would have come and mocked her. To them, filial piety was the most important in this world. But now Mu-E was not her father. The Mu family had always mistreated Little Nine. Then, it was expected for her to act like this. God would not care much about such idle matters. Chapter 2214. The Past Life 139. Impossible. Old Lady Mu shook her head, stood up from the ground, and took a few steps back while shaking her head. "It's impossible. Little Nine is from our Mu family. I don't believe it. Even if Little Nine was not her granddaughter, she had to make Little Nine listen to her." A cold light flashed in Old Lady Mu's eyes. No matter what, she had to get this Little Nine for herself and not let her go. Only by following Little Nine could she have a great life, and no one would ever dare to offend her again. Not only in Fengyin Kingdom, but the entire mainland would also have to respect her. Even Princess Qingluo could not give her this life. So, thinking about it, Old Lady Mu felt that even if it was not her heir, it was not harmful to accept her in the family. Moreover, the Mu family had raised her for so many years. Even a raised dog had feelings for its owner, let alone a man. She should be better than a dog. I tell you, you are all just jealous. Little Nine is my granddaughter, and it will never change. Old Lady Moo continued to hold her head high, not feeling the least bit ashamed of what she just did. She continued to walk forward and said, Little Nine, you are my granddaughter. Someone must have been jealous and deliberately wanted to make you leave the Moo family. It must be Sima Yin who said this. Isn't Sima Yin just jealous that Little Nine is my granddaughter? He deliberately came and told my granddaughter that she's not of the Moo family's bloodline? It's ridiculous. Whether or not it's biological, there's no escaping the fact that Little Nine's surname is Moo. Old Lady Moo, you'd better leave. Little Nine can't possibly see you. She just shouted at you to get lost. The people on the side snorted. Haven't you ever thought about how you treated Little Nine before? Didn't you disapprove of her? I remember when Little Nine's mother was in the Moo family, she had suffered a lot from you as well. Oh yes, back then, it was you who drove Little Nine's mother out of the Moo family before she bought a manor here to live in. And as a result, you shamelessly came, wanting this manor again. Old Lady Mew's face turned pale. The things that happened back then were brought up one by one, making her a little embarrassed, but she soon got over it and did not waver no matter what these people said. The old lady was more difficult to deal with than Moo E. At least Moo E felt some shame, but Old Lady Moo could give up everything for the benefit, even her dignity. Therefore, when Old Lady Moo saw that Little Nine was not paying attention to her, she sat on the steps. Afraid that Little Nine would make a move, she sat some distance away to ensure her safety. Me for extra chapters. Chapter 2215. The past life 140-inch Old Lady Moo, you'd better go. After all, you didn't raise her either. Old Lady Moo grunted coldly. She was staying put, not willing to leave, but their glances were unbearable to her. In the imperial prison, Moo Qingya rubbed her arms hard. Her gaze was full of resentment and viciousness. Little Nine, it's all her fault. If it weren't for Little Nine, I wouldn't have gotten into this situation. Qingya. Princess Qingluo could not stand the bad condition in prison. She frowned slightly and looked at Moo Qingya. Don't worry, your father will find a way to get us out. Your father won't leave us alone. We just have to wait. He will come to save us. Moo Qingya sneered. Even if her father wanted to save her, so what? It was impossible to save her. Her grandfather was determined to punish her. Why? Why didn't you tell me what grandfather had warned you about at that time? Moo Qingya turned to look at Princess Qingluo. Her face was expressionless, but there was cruelty in her eyes. Qingluo's throat choked a little. She lowered her head and closed her eyes. I'm sorry. She did not believe those words at all and did not care much. Who knew that her father was so convinced and would disregard his own family? He even wanted to kill Qingya because of this matter. Qingya was his granddaughter. Until now, this mother and daughter had not thought about what mistakes they had made. One stubbornly blamed all the mistakes on others, thinking it was Little Nine's fault, and later thinking it was Qingluo's fault. And the other one stubbornly refused to believe the fact. She felt that the emperor was too stupid and was fooled by Little Nine and Sima Yin. Why did you lie to me? Moo Qingya's eyes were bloodshot as she stared at her fiercely. Why did you lie to me? Why didn't you say all the things that grandfather had said? If her mother had told her earlier, perhaps she would not have used such a stupid method to deal with Little Nine. She would only spread the news about Little Nine and let her enemies deal with her. After all, the Ninth Emperor had offended too many people on this mainland, and countless people wanted to kill her. Because of her mother, she was sent to prison, allowing Little Nine to be free. Me for extra chapters. The person who deserved to die the most should be Little Nine. Qingya. Seeing Qingya's appearance, Qingluo's heart broke. Her face was pale as she stared at Moo Qingya. Moo Qingya's hair was messy, and her little face was dirty. The clothes she wore were also full of dust, and no longer in the glory of the emperor's son-in-law's manor. If you hadn't lied to me, the one who would die should have been Little Nine. You deserve to die. Moo Qingya's eyes were bloodshot, and she gritted her teeth tightly. Why? Why was she suffering here? Why was little Nine able to get away with it? In these few days, she was already going crazy. The prison was definitely not for humans. Moreover, in a few days, she would be beheaded, and it was all their fault that she would be beheaded. Hunger, anger, panic, despair, all of the emotions came up at once, making Mu Kinjia's eyes even redder. She thought of these awful days, having to eat nasty things. She thought of how there was no servant to take care of her and that she could only sleep on this cold ground. Chapter 22:16. The Past Life 141. She thought of the people, how they had slandered her, abused her, and how no one was following her anymore like they once did. These things were unbearable to Mu Qingya, who was once high up in the world and had a strong sense of self-respect. Therefore, she stood up from the ground and stared hard at Qing Luo, a flash of angry fire burning her eyes. Suddenly, she lunged at Qing Luo, strangled as she gnashed her teeth. It's all your fault. You lied to me. You're the one who caused me to become like this. Since I'm going to die, then you must be buried with me. Ha ha ha. Her two hands firmly strangling Qing Luo made it difficult for Qing Luo to breathe. She stretched out her hands as she panicked. But she did not try to hit Mu Qingya, not even a little. Qingya was right. It was all her fault. She was the one who caused her daughter's incoming death. So, no matter what Qingya wanted to do, she would no longer resist her and could not let her suffer alone. Qing Luo gradually closed her eyes, tears hanging for the corners of her eyes. Qingya was her only daughter. How could she not be heartbroken? The thought of her being beheaded in a few days was even more painful. The pain was more than the pain in her neck. It was unbearable for her. Kinjia's eyes became more bloodshot, as if Qing Luo, in front of her, was no longer her mother, but an implacable enemy. Bang! Just then, the prison door was pushed open. Two guards rushed in from outside. One of them stepped forward and kicked Mu Qingya out of the way. The air rushed into King Luo's nostrils, allowing her to catch a few breaths finally. What are you doing? The head guard angrily scolded. You are a prisoner, and you dare to do this in imperial prison. Are you seeking death? Now that Mu Qingya was no longer a noble lady, the guard went forward and kicked Mu Qingya viciously. Qing Luo panicked and went forward to protect Mu Qingya. I'm the princess, and she is a noble lady. You can't hit her, or my father will not let you go. Me for extra chapters. Princess? Noble lady? The chief guard laughed. The emperor released a mandate that you are no longer of the imperial family. Even if you go out, you are no longer a princess. As for Mu Qingya, one way out for her is to die. The crime she committed is unforgivable. King Luo's body grew stiffer, and she shook her head fiercely. No, father would not be so cruel. As long as Mu Yi can make little Nine forgive Qingya, Qingya will not die. After all, little Nine was Mu Yi's daughter. Mu Yi had done nothing wrong to her, and he always tried to find ways to get her home and make up for it. Therefore, little Nine finally had to listen to Mu Yi and release Qingya. I don't believe what you say. Even though she was already a prisoner, Qing Luo still did not let go of her pride. She raised her head proudly, looked at the guards in front of her, and said, The emperor's son-in-law will find someone to save us. As long as little Nine forgives us, we will be able to get out. I'm still the princess. If you treat us like this now, sooner or later, I will make you regret it for the rest of your lives. The guards looked like they had heard some funny joke and laughed louder. He smiled sardonically. You probably don't know. He went to little Nine, but he was not even able to enter the gate, and he paused. Little Nine said Mu Yi is not her real father. Mu Yi has also admitted it. So, there is no need to scare me. A person who has lost her power wants to make me regret it for the rest of my life. Chapter 22:17. The Past Life 142. Qing Luo froze, staring in disbelief. Little Nine is not Mu Yi's daughter? Impossible. Mu Yi never said anything about this. It's not true. In the past, Qing Luo was hoping that little Nine was not related to the Mu family, so that no one would come to the emperor's son-in-law's manor to compete with her for Mu E. But now, she desperately hoped that what the guard said was not true. If Little Nine was not a member of the Mu family, it was like losing all hope. Qing Luo panicked and stood up from the ground. Mu E is Little Nine's father, but she is trying to escape, deliberately looking for an excuse. She is his daughter and must obey her father's words. Otherwise, God will not let her go. The guard sneered. Whatever you think, she still can't get out anyway. As for your words, it all depends on the emperor, but he turned to Mu Qingya, and his expression was stern. Your mother's crime does not send her to death. The emperor did not say anything about it, so she cannot die. If you want to strangle her to death, then you will be seen as committing a crime, which deserves to be beheaded. Beheaded? Mu Qingya's body stiffened. She even started feeling suffocated. The guard left after saying this, locked the gate again, and did not say that Qing Luo should change the cell. Mu Qingya gradually turned her gaze to Qing Luo. She clenched her fists tightly and did her best to restrain her anger. Did you do it on purpose? Did you deliberately want to make a commotion so that those people would know that I wanted to kill you and have them kill me? She gritted her teeth, speaking the word with hatred. I didn't. You did it on purpose. Just now, you deliberately backed me up, but you were pretending. You are no good just like that, Little Nine. You both want to harm me. She sounded a little crazy, and there was anger in her eyes. Qing Luo froze. She looked at Mu Qingya in a daze, unable to speak for a moment. Since when did Qingya become like this? Obviously, after entering prison, she seemed like a different person. Qingya was her only daughter. How could you want to harm her? Qingya, that's enough, bitch. Mu Qingya raised her hand, and with one hand, she pushed Qing Luo, who wanted to approach her away. Her eyes were red with anger, and she was like a madman, holding her head tightly and squatting down. Me for extra chapters. You're all bitches. You all want to harm me. I want to leave this place. I don't want to live in this prison with you. I want to leave. She suddenly stood up and rushed toward the gate. She grabbed the iron bars desperately and shook them. Let me out. Let me out immediately. I don't want to live with her. She wants to kill me. She and Little Nine are both evil. Let me out. King Luo's gaze was dull and stunned as she looked at the mad Mu Qingya. Her heart felt like it was being squeezed by a hand, pounding with pain. Her daughter, her once most proud daughter, was now completely crazy. Why did this happen? Oh, it was all Little Nine's fault. It was because of Little Nine that Qingya had gotten into such a state. Qing Luo closed her eyes in grief. She did not want to see Qingya with this crazy look. It hurt her heart just to glance at her. Chapter 22:18. The Past Life 143. Mu Qingya got tired of crying and quieted down. Her eyes were red with monstrously brewing anger. There was also that crazy, hideous light. Little Nine owes me a life. She owes me a life. If it weren't for her, I wouldn't be so miserable. I will never let her go. In future lifetimes, I will haunt her. As long as she can reincarnate, no matter where she goes, whose child she becomes, I will haunt her. I, Mu Qingya, swear here that I will never give up unless my soul disappears forever. Otherwise, I will be entangled in life and death. She gritted her teeth fiercely. Qing Luo froze, looking at Mu Qingya, and slowly closed her eyes. I will help you. I will help you. She was her mother. How could she not help her? No matter what Mu Qingya had done to her before, she would not resent her. She would only blame Little Nine. It was because of Little Nine that drove her to such a state. It was also because of Little Nine that made her daughter go crazy. Qing Luo lowered her gaze, and the hatred in her eyes was also so intense that it seemed like it could destroy both the sky and the earth. At this moment, the Ninth Emperor still did not know the future of these two lives, this pair of mother and daughter, who swore to haunt her. In the first life, the Ninth Emperor was the daughter of a single-parent family, who knew that one day, her father would bring back another woman. This woman also had a son and a daughter. That son was named Feng Jianxie. The daughter was Mu Qingya, and that woman was the reincarnation of Princess Qingluo. She could not bear the life in this family, being targeted and framed at every turn, making her want to escape. However, because of Feng Jianqi's existence, she was able to hold back. The young man cared for her and loved her in every way. Later, the young man took her away with him and also created a business empire for her. Until her father came to the door, the young man did not forgive them, simply because they brought a lot of harm to the Ninth Emperor. Later, these people also became very miserable. The Ninth Emperor's father's company went bankrupt, and the young man did not help him. Her stepmother eloped with someone who turned out to be a gambler. In another life, she was the daughter of Luyun Kingdom's emperor. Qingluo was noble consort Rome, and Mu Qingya became the illegitimate daughter of noble consort Rome. Me for extra chapters. No matter how their identities changed, it had not changed their downfall, which was still miserable. After several lifetimes, they still could not fight the Ninth Emperor. Today's Mu Qingya still did not know that her reincarnation after this would be miserable. Otherwise, she would no longer have such thoughts. Her life began with pride and love by all, but ended up miserably. And yet, it would still hurt. Since she had lost life, no matter how long it took, she would still lose after all. Fate was long predetermined. She was destined to be defeated by the Ninth Emperor, even though she had been reincarnated for 10,000 lives. That was because, from the beginning, the Ninth Emperor was not bothered by her. A weak person like her did not deserve any attention. Even Feng Ruqing from Luyun Kingdom would still not pay too much attention to her, as she was too weak and useless. Chapter 2219. The Past Life 144-inch Ninth Emperor. The Ninth Emperor was lying lazily on top of the pavilion when suddenly someone spoke. She raised her gaze to look at the girl standing in front of her. Dongfang Yu smiled. Mu Qingya has been executed today. Oh, the Ninth Emperor answered faintly as if she was just listening to an insignificant matter. Her face was calm, without any emotion, and her eyes were as bright as before. However, Princess Qingluo is dead. The Ninth Emperor raised her eyebrows and finally sat up straight. The Emperor killed her? No, she was killed by Mu Qingya. Mu Qingya wanted to strangle Qingluo a few days ago, but the guards stopped her. This time no one got there in time, so that no one could save her life. Mu Qingya died, and also Qingluo. Who was left? Mu no. There was still old Lady Mu. From now on, it was this pair of mother and son who must depend on each other. They kind of did it to themselves. Dongfang Yu smiled. Ninth Emperor, you have never wanted to provoke them, but they still wanted to fight against you. The Ninth Emperor laughed. They're just strangers to me. In the future, you do not need to tell me any news about these people, even Mu Yi. I do not want to know. Indeed, to her, these people were irrelevant. What she wanted to do now was just to find out the whereabouts of her mother. Nothing more. Recently, Di Ming has been staying indoors, right? Yes. Mu Yi always goes to him, so he refuses to go out. Since Mu Qingya died, Mu Yi has not been able to see him. It was said that Di Ming was Mu Qingjia's future husband, but she did not know why he was so cold to Mu Qingya. Her death or life all seemed to have nothing to do with him. Come on, let's go out for a walk. It's rare for this place to be so peaceful. The Ninth Emperor ignored these people, but these people kept coming to her to disturb her. It made her feel as if many flies were flying around her, making her want to get rid of this group of flies immediately. However, the Ninth Emperor did not go out these days, and it was not to avoid the Mu family. It was because she did not care about them. She was simply lazy, and she did not want to go out. And me for extra chapters. She was waiting for Di Ming to come and meet her again. A cold light flashed in the Ninth Emperor's eyes as she smirked. No matter what, she had to find her mother's whereabouts. Yes, Ninth Emperor. Dongfang Yu followed behind the Ninth Emperor, somewhat puzzled. The Ninth Emperor had found the cellar and saw the painting. Now, she knew her background. But why did she still not leave? It was as if she was still waiting for something. When the Ninth Emperor left the manor, they just happened to see Mu Yi again. At this moment, Mu-yi did not have the vigor he had many days ago. His clothes seemed not washed for a long time, with dirty and messy hair like a beggar. When he looked up, he saw the ninth emperor walking toward him. He stopped in his tracks. However, the ninth emperor ignored him, walked past him, and did not even look at him. She seemed to be unaware of his existence. Mu-yi clenched his fists tightly, and his heart was hurting. Little Nine was able to save Qingya. Yet, she did not save her. She simply allowed Qingya to be beheaded. Little Nine. Suddenly, Mu-yi called out to the ninth emperor. The ninth emperor stopped in her tracks. She turned to the person behind her, with her snow-colored robe shallowly raised in the wind. Although you're not my daughter, I've always been nice to you. Mu-yi closed his eyes in sorrow. This time, he admitted the true identity of the ninth emperor. It indirectly proved that he also had long known that the ninth emperor was not his biological daughter. When I first met your mother, I was unaware that she was pregnant. I only knew that she had lost her memory and did not remember anything. But back then, I had no intention to leave her. As long as she was willing to stay, not to mention having me raise her daughter, whatever I was asked to do, I was willing to do it. But it was me who was wrong. Mu-yi closed his eyes. It was I who failed to protect her, which made her suffer so much aggravation and also made her suffer from my mother's torture. The ninth emperor pursed her lips and did not speak. It was also because of his kindness in raising her back then that she had never bothered Mu-yi. However, every time these people came to the door, it looked like they were seeking death. Your mother and I were husband and wife, but we had never been like a real couple. He opened his eyes slowly. She had always refused to share a room with me, even though we were married. The ninth emperor was shocked. This was beyond what she thought. Back then, Mu-yi was sincere to her mother. However, her mother did not have the same feelings for him. Mu-yi smiled bitterly. Seeing that the ninth emperor did not speak, he continued, "Later, your mother left, leaving you behind. What do you think I was supposed to do? For your mother's sake, I adopted you, and in the end, it was you who wanted to leave." The ninth emperor lowered her gaze and laughed. "If I didn't leave, I'm afraid I would have been sold by you, right?" When she said that, Mu-yi's heart trembled. He then raised his head and looked at the ninth emperor with a look of dismay in his gaze. His voice trembled. "You know it all? Me for extra chapters." The ninth emperor laughed. "I overheard it. So why should I stay? To be sold by you to others as a concubine?" Mu-yi's face was pale, clenching his fists. Back then, Little Nine was beautiful even at a young age, and many people wanted her despite her age, only that those family members were all commoners. Later, his mother suggested to sell Little Nine as a concubine. Back then, the Mu family status was not high, and it was too difficult to marry his daughter to a good family as an official wife. And finally, they could only make her a concubine. He told his mother back then that he wanted to go back and think about it first. In fact, back then he was still quite selfish. Little Nine was not his daughter, and his mother knew about it. Later, when his wife was gone, he intended to leave her but was worried that she would starve out there. If she had been sold as a concubine, at least she would have a place and food and might have lived in luxury. However, he rejected his mother's suggestion after 2 days of consideration. He knew the ninth emperor's temper. She would disagree, and if he did so, he would feel apologetic to his late wife. Yet, he did not expect Little Nine to have heard these words and left home furiously. Chapter 22-21. The Past Life 146-inch back then, Mu-yi lowered his gaze. "I refused." "So what?" The ninth emperor turned to Mu-yi. "It was all there and done. There is no need to mention that again." The ninth emperor did not tell Mu-yi that on the very same night, Old Lady Mu had brought people over to kidnap her, forcibly wanting to sell her as a concubine. So she escaped. That night, she finally understood that the Mu family, who said they wanted to help her, were ruthless. To her, it was useless to talk about this now. From then on, she had no more relationship with the Mu family. "Little Nine, how could you bear to watch Qingya die?" Mu-yi said painfully. I'm telling you this because I just want you to know that I never did anything to hurt you. I disagreed with my mother back then. Why can't you forgive Qingya this time for the kindness I once gave you while raising you back then? I chose Qingya and the Emperor's son-in-law's family that day because you're not my biological daughter. Since you know all that, why do you still hate me? He had given her a life. Was that not enough? Why did he have to give up the Emperor's son-in-law's family and Qingya to protect her? After all, Qingya was his only daughter. Why should little Nine resent him for this? The ninth Emperor turned around expressionlessly and looked at him. You think I hold resentment against you? She walked toward Mu Yi and inched closer. Her voice carried a questioning tone. Mu Yi, I never hated you. It's just that from then on, the Mu family and I no longer had anything to do with each other. And I already repaid your kindness some years ago. Mu Yi froze and looked at the ninth Emperor, somewhat shocked. His voice filled with bewilderment. What do you mean by that? Some years ago, you once went out and were in danger. If I hadn't saved you, you would have died long ago. You said you gave me a life, and then I returned life to you too. We're even now. Some years ago, Mu Yi seemed even more bewildered. He remembered that he had only encountered danger once. That was more than 10 years ago before he married Qing Luo. Back then, he was out and met a spirit beast. He did vaguely see a person come up to scare the spirit beast away and save him. Me for extra chapters. He had lost too much blood and fainted. He then saw Old Lady Mu. Old Lady Mu told him that Princess Qing Luo had brought someone to save him. If it were not for Princess Qing Luo, he would have died long ago. He had never had any feelings for Qing Luo. Not then, not now. He thought that he owed Qing Luo too much and naturally had to protect her. The other thing was to respect each other like guests and nothing else. However, it was because of the old lattice words that he had to marry Qing Luo to return the favor of saving his life. But now, little Nine was telling him that she saved him. So, his mother had gone out of her way to deceive him and set him up with Qing Luo. Mu Yi froze. His face grew paler. His body was trembling uncontrollably, and his entire mind was blank, as if there was a thunderbolt exploding in his head, buzzing nonstop. And the ninth Emperor smiled faintly. I've let her go many times. She does not know repentance and still came up to bug me. I had no choice. So when you wanted me to let her go, there was absolutely no way. Chapter 22:22. The Past Life 147. Mu Yi closed his eyes. All the words that he said to the ninth Emperor just now, there was no way to repeat them, and he no longer knew how to face her. What he had always believed in also shattered with this moment, making his heart sink. If he did not leave back then, Mu Yi opened his eyes sorrowfully. Perhaps it would not have turned out like this. The ninth Emperor pursed her lips and fell silent. A few seconds later, she turned to Mu Yi. There was a coldness in her eyes. If there was Mu Qingya, I'm afraid the ending would be the same, and it has nothing to do with me leaving or not. And perhaps she would have died much earlier. Mu Yi was shocked. You are blaming your father for marrying another wife back then? You overthink. Old Lady Mu has always been greedy for power. You are destined to marry Qing Luo. With them in, Mu Qingya would have eventually turned out like the person she is today. She smiled faintly. So, as long as Mu Qingya has this kind of nature, sooner or later she will make the same mistakes, and whether I stay in this place or not, it does not matter. All people were born as blank slates and shaped by parents. With the nature of Princess Qing Luo and Old Lady Mu, Mu Qingya would still become so. So, this had nothing to do with whether she left the Mu family or not. The ninth Emperor turned around and left without so much as glancing at Mu Yi again. She was a little hungry and just wanted to go to the restaurant to dine. If she stayed too long, she was afraid that even her appetite would disappear. She got Nan Chongfeng to help her keep an eye on Di Ming yesterday, so no one was there to cook for her. She could only come out to eat. Mu Yi looked at the ninth Emperor leave and could not come back to his senses for a long time. A few seconds later, he turned around and walked back to the Emperor's son-in-law's manor. Although the place was still the Emperor's son-in-law's manor, the plaque had long been removed. The guards and servants had also run away. leaving only some people. The whole courtyard looked deserted. Mu-yi walked into the courtyard and saw Old Lady Mu, who was full of resentment. Me for extra chapters. Old Lady Mu rushed toward Mu-yi furiously. Why haven't you ever told me that little Nine is not your child? Mu-yi sneered. You didn't like them, so what makes you think I will tell you? She might end up miserably if I told you that. He knew his mother. Every time he tried to disobey her, she would confront him with the statement that it was not easy to bring him up on her own. In the end, he chose to obey her, and he would end up in such a situation. The only time he did not listen to his mother was to marry Princess Qingluo. Only later, his mother had told him that Princess Qingluo had fought to save her life, and he immediately accepted her. In the end, this turned out to be the biggest joke of all. Ha 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 ha. Mu-yi laughed. Tears flowed from his eyes, and his pale, weathered face was filled with despair. Old Lady Mu froze for a moment, perhaps not understanding why Mu-yi seemed crazy again. It might be because Mu Qingyao was dead. Chapter 22-23. The Past Life 148. It seemed like he was not able to bear it. Old Lady Mu continued. It doesn't matter if little Nine is not yours. After all, she was raised by us. If not because of us, she would have starved to death. You must go to little Nine now and make her forgive us. If little Nine can come back, it will benefit us more than Qingluo and her daughter. Mu-yi stopped laughing and looked at Old Lady Mu incredulously. His gaze was fixed upon her as if he did not believe that Old Lady Mu could say such words. How come he had never found out before that his mother was so selfish? Qingyao had died, but she had not felt the slightest sadness. It was as if she never cared. Qingyao was her granddaughter. Now she treated Mu Qingyao like what she had done to little Nine back then, ruthless and heartless. Mother, Qingyao is your granddaughter. Your granddaughter. His voice was filled with despair. Even if he had been disappointed in Old Lady Mu many times before, he had never been as desperate as he was now. His mother. What kind of woman was she? Why did he never realize this? Mu-yi clenched his fists tightly, trembling, and his gaze carried anger. Old Lady Mu looked somewhat impatient. It was Qinji's fault, who had asked them to poison the young lady of Prince Mint's manor and frame little Nine. She deserves to die. Do you expect me to save them? Yes, she deserved to die. But if it weren't for her mother's bad influence on Mu Qingyao, his daughter would not commit such a crime. Little Nine was right. Even if she was in the Mu family, there was no way that she would be close to Mu Qingyao because of that. On the contrary, it would make Mu Qingyao die earlier. However, he did not deserve to say these words. Huh? Mu-yi laughed in a low voice. That laughter was filled with sarcasm and mockery. In the end, he laughed louder and louder, like a crazy man. Back then, you planned to sell little Nine, and little Nine found out about it. That was why she disappeared and never came back. Old Lady Mu's body stiffened, and her old face turned pale. Me for extra chapters. No wonder little Nine ignored me. When did she know about this? Back then, you still did not know that little Nine was not my daughter, but you still made such a choice. It is apparent that you are really a ruthless woman. That was why she left and did not return for several years until I was in danger before I married Qingluo. Little Nine passed by and saved me, but you deceived me, saying that it was Qingluo who did it and claimed that she risked her life to save me. All the tragedies that happen in our Mu family are because of you. You are the culprit, and the one who deserves to die is you. He roared. His eyes were bloodshot. Mu-yi was like a lion that had gone crazy. Old Lady Mu's face turned paler. She bit her lip hard, trying to calm her trembling body. I am your mother. How dare you treat me like this? No matter what she did, it could not change the fact that she was his mother. But now, he dared to be so rude and dare to tell her to die. I order you now to go and find little Nine immediately. You must get her back. Otherwise, don't come back here for the rest of your life. Old Lady Mu gritted her teeth, raised her head, and said arrogantly. Chapter 22-24. The past life, 149. The way He looked at old Lady Mu was as if he was looking at a fool. He did not understand why old Lady Mu could still say such words after what had happened. Could it be that she still did not understand why he no longer had the face to find little Nine now? Enough. If you want to find her, then you can go yourself. I will never go again. He turned around and wanted to leave. Old Lady Mu panicked. She knew that if she got Mu-E to go this time, maybe Mu-E would not come back in the future. So she rushed and grabbed Mu-E's hand anxiously. You're not allowed to go. You must go and find little Nine. Old Lady Mu grabbed Mu-E's arm tightly. Her face was full of anxiety. Mu-E fiercely flung his hand, trying to push old Lady Mu away. However, the resentment in his heart was so strong that he used too much force this time. Her head hit the wall pillar, blood flowed, and she fainted. After hearing the sound, Mu-E turned and saw the unconscious old Lady Mu. The blood flowed on the ground, making him stunned. At that moment, an endless fear invaded his heart. Cold sweat flowed down his face as he rushed forward and said anxiously, "Guard, someone come here." In an instant, the few remaining guards and servants ran out and rushed to Mu-E. Mu-E covered old Lady Mu's head with his hand tightly, trying to stop the blood. His eyes were filled with panic, and his heart beat fiercely. No matter what, the old lady was still his mother, the mother who gave birth to him and raised him. No matter how much he hated her, he still did not want her to die. Otherwise, he would never forgive himself in this life. The autumn breeze blew gently. The ninth emperor lay lazily on her pavilion. Just at this time, a figure hurriedly ran over. The ninth emperor looked up and saw Dongfang Yu in front of her, panting. "Ninth emperor, did you know that? Just now, old Lady Mu died. Me for extra chapters." At this moment, the ninth emperor, who was holding a cup of tea in her hand, just about to drink it, paused for a moment. The news came too suddenly. Old Lady Mu died. How did she die? What's going on? She raised her head to look at Dongfang Yu and asked. Dongfang Yu shrugged. I'm not too sure. I heard that Mu-E pushed her, and she accidentally fell and bled to death. The emperor's son-in-law's manor now is in trouble. The world is indifferent to Mu-E. He went to beg those physicians, but no one was willing to help him. Princess Qing Luo had been punished, and the entire emperor's son-in-law's manor had been affected by this incident. If it were in the past, many people would rush to treat Mu-E's mother, but now no one was willing to take care of them. The ninth emperor felt a little surprised. Old Lady Mu was dying, but Mu-E did not come to her. This was not quite the same as the old Mu-E. Mu-E didn't come to me? Dongfang Yu shook his head. No, I heard that he begged all the physicians in this kingdom, and he also kneeled outside the palace to beg the emperor, but no one helped him. That old Lady Mu has offended many people over the years, so those people want her to disappear immediately. Mu-E wanted to bring the ashes of old Lady Mu back to the Mu family, but the Mu family refused. Chapter 22-25. The past life 150. Sadly, their life had been ruined to this extent. When old Lady Mu took Mu-E back to the Mu family, those people in the Mu family, although they despised her, also accepted her. They gave her food and clothing, and no one abused her, but there would always be some fighting behind the scenes. Later, Mu-E became the emperor's son-in-law. After old Lady Mu gained power, she started to bully those in the Mu family. It was acceptable if she did it to those who had mocked her, but even those who had not hurt her also suffered. She felt that everyone in the Mu family owed her. The former head of the Mu family was seriously ill and wanted to ask Princess Qing to help him, but old Lady Mu stopped her. She refused and went to the former head of the Mu family and insulted him, causing his death. How could the Mu family forgive her? Therefore, it was expected if the Mu family was not willing to help him now. The ninth emperor was just curious. Why did Mu-E not come to her? Of course, even if Mu-E came, he might not see her, so it did not matter if he came or not. Has Di-Ming made any moves recently? The ninth emperor leaned back and asked. Dongfang Yu shook her head. She thought for a moment and then asked, Ninth emperor, Is it true that Master D is related to your mother's disappearance? Yes, the ninth emperor nodded slightly. This kid must know something about my mother, but if I ask him, he might not tell me. If Di Ming wanted to, he would have long said it and would not wait until now. And she did not even need to let Nan Chongfeng keep an eye on him. Speaking of that, Nan Chongfeng recently off and went out, making her a little uncomfortable. Dong Fangyu, go to Nan Chongfeng tomorrow and ask him to come back. You replaced Nan Chongfeng to watch over Di Ming. The ninth emperor thought about it and was somewhat uneasy. No, you can't go. Get Tian Xian to go. The wolf girl is stronger than you. Dong Fangyu was speechless. Her expression changed dramatically, and she almost cried out, her pair of eyes full of grief as she stared at the ninth emperor pitifully. Does the ninth emperor dislike me? Actually, I can do this, me for extra chapters. The ninth emperor looked up at Dong Fangyu, thought about it, but still shook her head and said, forget it. With your strength, he will easily find out that someone is watching him. You should just stay at home. Sadness filled Dong Fangyu's heart. It seemed that she had to improve her strength to help the ninth emperor so that the ninth emperor would like her more. Back then, there was no Nan Chongfeng. Everyone in Cloud Mountain was sisters and never fought about this. But now there was a man involved. If she did not work hard, perhaps their status in the ninth emperor's heart would gradually disappear. Oh, what is Tian Xian doing lately? Why haven't I seen her? The ninth emperor pondered for a while. Go to Tian Xian and tell her to keep an eye on Di Ming. If there is any movement, come and report to me immediately. I don't believe he won't reveal any hint. Yes, ninth emperor. Although Dong Fangyu was sad, for the ninth emperor, she would always be obedient. Therefore, after merely looking at the ninth emperor, she turned around and walked out. Chapter 22-26. The Past Life 151-inch. Am a little tired. The ninth emperor lazily stretched. She smiled and said, I've asked Tian Xian to continue to keep an eye on Di Ming. If there's any movement on his side, we'll go to him. Her eyes were slightly narrowed with a bit of coldness. Back then, her relationship with Di Ming was good, so she hoped that this matter had nothing to do with Di Ming. Otherwise, she was afraid that she could never forgive him in this life. Because of the death of old Lady Mu, Mu Yi's life became miserable all of a sudden. He was left alone in the lively emperor's son-in-law's manor. Therefore, during this period, he did not go to the ninth emperor. Instead, he became a drunkard. He slept and drank all day, hoping that the wine could numb his heart. However, compared to Mu Yi's grief, the ninth emperor had a rare moment of clarity. This kind of clarity was not like before, easily broken by these people. Now everything had changed. These people would no longer bother her. Mu Yi also never came to her again, which made the ninth emperor calm. Meanwhile, a man in a vivid purple stood in the courtyard. He smiled as he looked in Tian Xian's direction. However, no one was there. Soon, he withdrew his gaze and asked, How is the emperor's son-in-law's manner these days? A servant standing behind Master D answered respectfully, Master D, the emperor's son-in-law's family has all died, except for the emperor's son-in-law who is still alive. The people of the emperor's son-in-law's manor were all dead, something that the people of this city had long waited for. The emperor's son-in-law's family had indeed left Mu Yi alone. That's good, said Di Ming with a faint smile. I thought that little nine still cared about Mu Yi. That's why I help him, but I didn't expect I would make Mu Qingyang misunderstand and claim to be my future wife. Mu Yi was little nine's father. That was, he had secretly helped him a lot over the years, and later, after the Mu family knew it was him who helped them, Mu Qingyang, therefore, thought he liked her and claimed herself as his future wife. Me for extra chapters. Previously, little nine did not return. He did not care about the outside world and decided to let her go. But now that little nine was back, of course, he would not allow anyone to control him anymore. The good thing was, Mu Qingyao was no longer there. It was like back in the day again. After old Lady Mu died, did Mu Yi ever bother her? Master D, the person behind him, said respectfully, Mu Yi has nothing to do besides getting drunk every day, and he has not gone to look for Maiden Mu. Well, Di Ming said indifferently, I don't know what happened, but I know that the current little nine doesn't like Mu Yi, so if Mu Yi still dares to go to her, there's no need for her to be polite. Unfortunately, he found that out too late, so much so that he let Mu Qingya have an opportunity to take advantage of it. If he had not released Mu Qingya in the first place, Mu Qingya would not have tried to frame little nine, and it was because of him this incident happened. You can leave now. The person behind him respectfully put his fist to his palm and retreated. Yes, master. Di Ming once again looked at the courtyard not far away. A certain light flashed in his eyes, but he said nothing. Then he withdrew his gaze, turned, and walked to the backyard. Chapter 22-27. The past life 152. Tian Xian hid behind the wall. She somehow felt that Master Di had discovered her. Her forehead was covered in a cold sweat, not knowing if it was her illusion or not. This man was much more terrifying than the Ninth Emperor imagined, and very scheming. He sounded like he was deliberately speaking to her so that she could go and tell the Ninth Emperor. Ridiculous. Did he think she would speak for him? Tian Xian sneered. She turned around and continued to hide in the shadows, carefully spying on every move in the courtyard. At this moment inside the room, the Ninth Emperor frowned. Her beautiful face glowed under the cold moon. She slept very deeply and quietly. The breeze blew at the bed veil that brushed her cheeks. No one saw the painting, which was initially placed on the table, floating in the wind to the candlestick, and was burned by fire. Then, a white light slowly overflowed from the portrait, filling the room again. White fog surrounded the place. She could not see anything, and she looked a little confused, until, in that white fog, a figure gradually appeared standing in front of her. The Ninth Emperor did not remember how long she had not seen this face. Too long that she thought she had forgotten. However, after seeing that stunning face, she realized that she had never forgotten her. Her appearance had long been deeply imprinted in her mind, so much so that after so many years, she could still see her again in her dreams. Mother, she called gently. She then ambled toward the woman in the white mist, and each step she took was as long as if it had spanned a century. Where have you been? Why had she not come back to see her once all these years? The woman smiled stunningly. Me for extra chapters. Her eyebrows were somewhat similar to the Ninth Emperor. Compared to the Ninth Emperor's domineering aura, this woman seemed more gentle, with a glow in her gaze. Little Nine, I know you have been looking for me, but you do not have to continue to look. Forgive me. Only now can I tell you to stop looking for me. It may be cruel, but I have no way to tell you before I go. I'm afraid you might want to follow me. Where are you? Her body trembled as she took one step closer to her. Tell me where you are. I must go to you. No, Little Nine, don't look for me anymore. You've been looking for me for a long time. All these years, I've followed your father. I believe in you. You can live a good life alone. Then, why won't you let me come with you? We can go together. We can go together. She left her behind. No one knew the fear and confusion she felt when she was left behind in this place. And then she fled here alone to find her mother. All these years, she had never given up looking, convincing herself that she would find her mother. And now her mother was telling her that she did not need to look for her anymore. Why? Little Nine, the place where your father and I go is not for you yet. But in the future, we will certainly see each other again. Your father and I just want to go first to pave the way for you. Only then, later, you can come to our side. Little Nine, stop looking. You don't need to continue. We will meet again in the future. Chapter 22-28. The past life 153, there was an apparent eagerness in the eyes of the woman before her. Even her voice was a little choked up. Her gaze was sad and sorrowful. No, the Ninth Emperor clenched her fists tightly. Her heart felt like it was being hammered hard. It hurt a little. It's not that I can stop just because you tell me not to look for you. As long as you're still there, I will search through the whole world. I will find you. I will find you. These words shook the woman's heart so hard that the grief in her eyes increased. Then if I'm not there anymore, impossible. The ninth emperor looked somewhat anxious. You left the letter back then, saying that you were going to find someone, and that's why you left. Since you didn't want me to find you, then why did you leave a letter? And you left it in a place where only I could find it. Everyone thought that her mother was dead, and Mu-E thought the same thing. So, she was the only one who knew that she was still alive. She had just gone to look for someone. When she found that person, she would come back. But why after so many years, she had not come back? Was it just because that person had not been found yet? So, why could she not return for her? The ninth emperor trembled as if there was a hand that had viciously torn her heart apart, causing her pain. Yes, I did go to look for someone. The woman in white smiled faintly. And I did find him. So, why didn't you come back? Because he went a little far away. And so did I as I went to look for him. I will never come back. I'm sorry, little nine. You do not need to look for me, because I am no longer in this world. I'm no longer in this world. This sentence made the ninth emperor fall into a low valley, froze. The coldness, as if rushing into her heart, made her heart tremble fiercely. She closed her eyes, tried her best to hold back the pain. Her face was pale, and her lips were trembling. No longer in this world? So she meant that she was dead? If she was still alive, why did she not come to her instead of using this method to tell her? If she were still alive, she would not have asked her to stop searching me for extra chapters. All these years, no matter how many trials and tribulations she encountered, the ninth emperor had always survived. She did not ascend to a god level in one step, but had slowly walked forward to get to where she was today, only to find her. She could also protect her now. But why? When she already had such an opportunity, could she no longer use it to protect her? She allowed her to be left alone in this cold world. At this instant, the ninth emperor felt like the sky was about to collapse. Her body stiffened as she stopped moving, and her gaze fixed upon the gradually blurred face in front of her. Then why did you not wait for me, even one more glance? I'm sorry, little nine. If there's a chance in the future, we will definitely see each other again. A chance? The ninth emperor closed her eyes and smiled coldly. After a short while, she opened her eyes. A touch of harshness and dominance flashed in her eyes. I will not wait for this opportunity. It does not matter if you refuse to come to see me. If you are still in this world, I will search every corner to find you. If you're no longer here, I will definitely find a way to you. You can't leave me alone in this place. That you're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.